Hello, just checking to see if I can see the thing there, the camera. Anyway, so I wanted to do an update on my dad again. It's been a few weeks, maybe even more than a month that I did the previous video, which was, I think, in the first week of January. So yeah, it's been a while. Anyway, so I wanted to keep it quick. Last time I was talking about legal representation of my dad and how we were going to do that and whether she was going to be that or not. By she, I mean his fiance. We've talked about her repeatedly, and of course we'll talk about her today as well. So they initially wanted me to do that because it is kind of the standard thing for usually a relative to be a legal representative of a patient. I had a talk with a psychologist and the main care worker, his caseworker basically, and they were also talking about that, like how are we going to do that? Do you want to do that? This was also brought up during a more generic conversation I think we had. There's like these meetings that you have with everybody who's on the case, and then a representative of some sorts happens about once every 6 months, and I was there for the first one. So they asked me again if I wanted to be a legal representative, and I said yes, because kind of she took that from us. And so we also spent some time talking about how I felt like she had taken that from us in the first place. And it was a very difficult conversation to have, of course, with everybody there, because they were all like, yeah, we kind of want somebody who really wants to be a legal representative and who's also related. We also understand that she is very closely connected to your dad, so we can't just tell her to go away, stuff like that. So how are we going to handle this? And they were going to have a meeting with her the week after as well. They already had that meeting set up. But any case, during that meeting, they were also going to go and tell her, like, okay, if you want to be a legal representative, then we expect this and this and this from you. And they were hoping that list of expectations would make her go, okay, well, then let somebody else do it because I don't have the time. Because that's been one of the things that she keeps bringing up, that she's so busy with things. She can't really say what she's busy with, but she's always very busy according to her. So they were hoping that she would say, okay, that's too much for me, let somebody else do it. But that day came around and they had that meeting with my dad there as well with her. So both him and her during that meeting said that they wanted her to be the legal representation, and so in order for me to take it from her, I would have to take it to court. So I had a talk with some of the care workers there, and I think also the main care worker that's on that department. And I said, you know what, if we really want to take it from her, then we have to go through courts and all that sort of thing. And is that really gonna do him any good at this point? Because she's really inside of his head. Like, he's got dementia, he doesn't have much room for anything, so she takes up all the space, and pretty much every time he has an opinion, it's her talking, because you can just hear that it's her opinion coming through him whenever she's not around. So anyway, if we were to try and take her to court, then that would really stress him out, not only because of court cases are always sort of really stressful anyway, even if you're not directly involved. She would, of course, go and talk to him about the court case and constantly make us look bad and talk about how stressed out she is and how panicked and how anxiety-ridden and blah, 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 and how she's supposedly on all sorts of medication now because she has to deal with all this terrible trouble that his children are putting him through, and that would make him panic and nervous and angry and all that sort of stuff. And he's already angry enough because she makes him paranoid, mostly about expenses. And one of the main ways that we notice this is because whenever we pay for anything, like for instance, I noticed in his cupboard that he's out of sugar, I go buy a pack of sugar sticks, like the ones he uses for his coffee, and that type of thing. She wants us to turn in receipts of everything that we buy for him, because that's normal, according to her anyway. And my brother and I are both like, you're not getting any receipts, because we do not declare costs with family members or friends and stuff like that. That's not normal according to us. But because she thinks it's normal, she keeps telling him how normal it is that we should be turning in our receipts so that they can be declared and they can be sent off to this bookkeeper that she's arranged, so that then she can reimburse us for the expenses that we've been making on his behalf. My brother and I both have made expenses, of course, but we're not sending our receipts because we don't feel like that's normal to do, and we don't want to, and we don't need his money, that type of thing. And if we're not declaring our expenses, that makes her look bad because she's the only one declaring expenses right now. So that's why she's constantly pushing that we should turn in our receipts. She even wrote it on the little whiteboard that I brought with me, which we could put notes on for him. And she keeps using that to, first of all, order us around. And also, I noticed that she had written on it, like, make sure to turn in your receipts, guys. And I was like, nope, that's not going on here anymore. Like, erase that because that's nonsense. So yeah, anyway, the phone, I was going to talk about that. So when he moved in there, he had a mobile phone, which he had been using for some time. Because of his dementia, it was getting more and more difficult for him to do so. And so after a while, it became very difficult for him to use a regular mobile phone with buttons, number buttons. He already had one of those senior phones, so not like a smartphone, because he couldn't handle a smartphone anymore. So I went and got him a phone. I actually have it here because it's broken, so he doesn't have it or doesn't need it anymore. Let me just put my finger over the buttons that are not my picture. So this is the type of phone that I had for him, and all it has is these buttons with photos on it, and then all he had to do was press the button with the photo of the person that he wanted to call, and that would start dialing their number, and that's all he would need to do, and it would just call, and that was it. But even that was pretty difficult for him to handle. And after a while it broke as well, because the SIM card that is in there, or the type of SIM card that needs to go in there, is bigger than the SIM card that he actually had. So I tried to like put it in this little extra frame. He has like a nano SIM, which is like the smallest one, and it takes a micro SIM, which is like the bigger ones, the old-fashioned SIM cards. So I had this little set that you could put like a little frame around it, but the way that you have to put the SIM card inside the phone is so difficult and such an odd angle that I ended up breaking one of the little pins that are in there, and after that it just didn't work anymore, so I had to get rid of that one. And then I bought another one, which is a smartphone type, but it had an app installed on it that basically simulated the same thing. Like all it really had was a bunch of smartphone like touchscreen buttons with pictures on it, and he was able to use that for some time. But he kept locking himself out because he would like get confused, I guess, and then he wanted to restart the phone, and then it would lock itself. And eventually I took the lock off because that's just a setting you can change. But by then, of course, he had messed with the phone so many times that he just didn't understand it anymore. So he kept having problems with a mobile phone. And one day, she got a landline that I was not aware of. And so she had a different phone number. And my phone rings and it's her. I'm like, okay, I do not recognize his number, so why is she able to call me? I'll block her later. But anyway, during the phone conversation, she starts off all like sad, like, oh, he can't use the phone anymore. He should probably just take it home because he can't use it. So sad. He can't reach me, and he gets really upset, and it's so difficult to hear, blah, blah, blah. And he like leaves voicemails where he's sounding like he's crying and stuff like that. I'm like, well, if he leaves voicemails, that means he can call you. And she's like, yeah. Anyway, so he can't use the phone anymore, so it's so sad. And I'm thinking, why would I, like, what would I be able to do about that? That's just the dementia happening. He can't help it. Nobody can help it. It's just a progressive disease. He's going to get progressively worse at doing things that were pretty much commonplace back in the day, because he wasn't able to use smartphones up until about 5-6 years ago. He had a smartphone for a very long time. He had several tablets, as a matter of fact. Anyway, so she's talking about how sad that is. And I'm like, okay, because I already knew that I had ordered something. So I say, okay, well, tomorrow she's going to be able to call you again. And she's like, oh yeah, how's that? Because he can't use the phone, he's not good at it, and just doesn't understand it anymore. It's so sad, just the whole story over again. And I'm like, well, he's going to get a landline. I said, a landline? What's that? What's that? So, well, that's just a regular phone, with like a horn and like buttons, and it's just connected to wall outlets. Oh, well, is that possible then? Because I don't think he pays for that type of thing, and how's that going to work? And she's like trying to come up with all sorts of reasons why that's not going to be an option. And I'm like, well, it is going to work because there is a connection and I'm going to be paying for it. And she's like, why would you do that? Why would you pay for that? What's the reason? He can't use phones. I'm like, well, this is a regular old-fashioned phone. He only has to do is like pick up the horn like the old-fashioned type and just press one button, and then it just goes, and it can't be locked because it's a regular phone. And all you can do is maybe dial the number incorrectly, and then all you have to do is put the horn back on it and try again. In any case, he's going to be much more successful with that because he has already said that he just wants an old phone back. So that's why I did it. And that upset her, of course, because, I don't know, she, again, with the receipts, she wanted me to turn in the receipts for that. And I said, no, I'm paying for this. And also, she's probably upset about the fact that now he's able to call her regularly. Also, I programmed her landline number into the phone. And so that means that she can't just turn her mobile phone off at night or something and then sleep soundly without him calling, because he's now able to call her number pretty much any time of day. And the landline is a little bit more difficult to block. Only thing she could do, I guess, there is either take it out of the wall socket altogether, or take the thing off, the horn off the hook, or something along those lines. But in any case, he's now able to call her, and he does so regularly. So that's something I can see now on the phone bill, how often he calls and for how many minutes, etc. So I know that he can call her. So anyway, that's also the receipt thing. So us paying for things makes her look bad because she's the only one who is actually turning in the receipts. So anyway, because those are her opinions, those are also his opinions. And anything that I've bought or anything that my brother brings in or suggests is, of course, bad. I brought in a couple of things for his room way at the start, and he's now upset about that, even though at the time he didn't mind that at all. But of course, she's had some time to talk to him about it, and she's one of those people that wants only white furniture in her house, and that means that now everything in his house or his apartment is supposed to be white as well. And I had brought these gray, like, foldable storage boxes with like a padded lid, so they're kind of like doubling as seats, because the two chairs that are in his room right now are not his, and we were told at the beginning that those chairs were going to disappear soon and we need to put something else there, and they were going to go replace them. So I said to my brother, you know what, I'm going to put those poofs there, those storage boxes, so that when those chairs go away, we still have a place to sit, because the only place that we would otherwise be able to sit would be on his bed, and that's kind of awkward. So I put them there for that reason. But now he keeps telling me whenever we go, like at the end of a visit, like, oh, you're going to take those boxes and you should take those storage things. We don't want them. They're gray. They're the wrong color. And so I took some white fabric and made like a cover for one of them. Like, okay, it's not gray anymore, you know, that type of thing. So I'm trying to keep them there as much as possible. Another point of contention is that same photo frame that I brought last time that I took a picture of as well and put on the previous video. She hasn't taken any more photos out, but she is now just trying to get him to have it removed entirely. He's actually said to me a couple visits back, like, when he was also busy talking about those, how he wants those boxes gone. He's like, oh, and the picture frame, when are you taking that? Because we don't have any photos other than of the engagement. So in other words, pictures of family, what am I supposed to do with that? The only photos that matter to me are the pictures of me and my fiance, that type of thing. So you know for sure that that is definitely her talking, because he would normally not throw out pictures of his family. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. Yeah, we're just not going to fight the whole... Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. We're not going to fight the whole legal representative thing yet. That's what I was talking about earlier. I just kind of skipped the whole thing. I'm not going to go to court yet. I'm going to wait, because the care personnel as well as us noticed that she's kind of like withdrawing from him a bit more each time. She's also just telling him really bad things to his face as well. She keeps telling him that he's old and that he's sick, and I'll keep coming back as long as you don't pee your pants or forget my name. That's what she literally says to him. Like, talk about keeping people calm. Anyway, so the thing was, when he met her, she had just moved into an apartment in that same building where he was at the time, which wasn't yet a care home, just a regular apartment, which was attached to a care home. So there were definitely a lot of old people there, but he was just living independently. She lived downstairs, and they met at the end of 2019, and they were engaged Easter 2020, so less than a year later. And so sometime after that, she actually moved out of there again because she didn't like it or whatever. And she bought an apartment in a building that which is near the nursing home where he is right now, which is one of the reasons why he even agreed to go to the nursing home, because it was so much closer to her, because he always had to go grab a taxi in order to go over to his place because he wasn't able to drive anymore after a while, blah, blah, blah. So the nursing home is about, I want to say, half a mile maybe not even from where she lives. So now she lived there for a while in this new apartment, and that was the main reason why he wanted to move, so he could be closer to her. But a few weeks back, she suddenly announced, oh, I'm going to sell that apartment and I'm going to buy someplace else because I'm done fixing up everything inside the apartment and I'm just bored. I need stuff to do. I need to buy a new place and I can fix that up and blah, 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 because I just can't sit still. Right? So that's very interesting, because if this is your fiance, you can't wait to get married and stuff like that. She still says that occasionally. She's saying that to him, and we think that's a sign of her moving away, and also just the type of stuff that she does is very odd and distant, because one day my dad decided, since they were only so far away from him, that he would walk over to her house to see if she was home and to hang out, have coffee. He was still allowed to go outside without any type of guidance at that point, so he took his walker and he wanted to go over there. Now, my dad is a very tall guy, so the walker is not tall enough for him. Most walkers are not tall enough for him because he's like too tall for the average walker. Walkers can be like made a little taller, like putting the handles up a bit further, but even with that adjustment, it's still too low for him. So he already starts off kind of leaning. He can't stand up straight behind his walker, so he's already kind of leading at the start, and then the further along he walks, the more the walker goes ahead of him, and eventually he just falls down because it's just too low for him. So he had managed to struggle his way over to pretty near to the building where she lives, and he had at some point fallen on this little grass field as well. He'd fallen like 5 times in total, I believe he said, which is already quite dangerous because he's old and frail. It's a miracle that he only really like chafed a knee during that whole episode. So anyway, somehow she managed to get the word that he was near her house and that he was looking for her. And instead of going out to meet him, because of course he's your fiance and you should want to help him and all that sort of thing, she called cops instead and said, come get him because I just got out of the shower, my hair is wet, and I can't go outside right now. So yeah, that's your fiance talking. And the cops were like, we know this guy, this one's from the care home. And so they called the care home to say, you know what, we can't pick him up because we don't do that sort of thing. And the care home was like, oh, well, we don't collect people, so we're going to have to arrange for something else. So the care home calls back to her, and she's like still not going outside because her hair is wet. And in the meantime, a couple of complete strangers who turned out to be neighbors of hers had found him once again fallen down on the ground, and they had loaded him up, including his walker, and brought him back. So complete strangers were able to show some type of humanity for her fiance, and she was not going to do anything because her hair was wet, and therefore she didn't want to go outside. So that's the type of caring fiance that she is, and everybody at the care home found that very peculiar behavior as well, of course. So that's one of the reasons why they thought that she was like letting go. And we are expecting that she's going to go move to this other place, and that this other place is probably going to be much further away from where she is now. And she's probably going to show up less and less, and then eventually she'll just disappear, because I'm pretty sure she's already talking to somebody else, and she's probably just trying to figure out who is the best to go for, and then when she figures out who she wants to go for next, she'll buy a house near them, and then she'll disappear. And at that point, we can much more easily take back control, and then hopefully we'll be able to, at least for the remaining time that he's on planet Earth, have some type of calm, as long as he is able to forget her at some point, because that's going to be a tragedy as well. Of course, when she actually finally disappears, he won't understand why. And because they loved each other so much and they were so good together, blah, 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 all the lies that she's been feeding him, of course, will come up, and then he'll get angry with us and all that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm probably out of video memory and I need to end it here, so probably we'll talk about this some other time as well. The camera just stopped recording, and that means I need to stop. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff going on, like I said, and hopefully not too complicated for people to follow. We're just going to keep going, and I'll probably update you guys sometime in the future to tell you how it's going. Meantime, hope you're doing well, and hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.